student, welcome you to massive open online course on Indian economy. Today we are going to discuss the module entitled Policies and Programs for the Eradication of Poverty and Inequality in India. After completing this module, you are able to learn government policies to reduce poverty and inequality, employment generating program that help to overcome the problem of poverty and inequality, as well as different social protection programs that are also introduced in our country to overcome the problems of poverty and inequality. The module consists with 9 sections. Section 1 introduces the necessities and importances of different policies and programs to overcome the poverty and inequality in our country. From section 2 to section 8 discuss different policies and programs which are adopted by the government in our country to overcome the problem of poverty and inequality. Specifically, section 2 deals with land reform policy. Section 3, the policies relating to monopoly concentration or to control the monopoly concentration. Section 3, the fiscal policy of the government. Then the minimum wage policy. And section 6, 7 and 8 discusses the different types of program like employment generating program, minimum needs program and social protection program. Finally, section 9 concludes the main observations. Poverty alleviation and the reduction of inequality are two important objectives in the economic planning in our country since its inception. Without reduction of the poverty and inequality, a country is not able to develop. Therefore, planners during the first plan period as well as during the different plan period, they emphasized on the reduction of the poverty and inequality, and accordingly, they have adopted different policies and programs to overcome the problem of poverty and inequality. Here we have introduced different types of policies and programs that considered by the government to overcome the problem of poverty and inequality. First of the land reform policy. The land reform policy is a very important policy that help us to reduce rural poverty and inequality in our country. Land reforms means the agrarian reform, that is the changes of the laws, regulation to favorable distribution of the land in the rural areas. In simplicity, land reforms means the redistribution of the land from the landlords to the landless household in the rural areas. During the planning period, government emphasized this policy to overcome the problem of the poverty and inequality in the rural areas. The basic objectives of the land reform policies mainly related with the distribution of the land among the landless household, and also to protect the interest of the tribal inland and development of the public lands, thereby providing better access to the rural poor. Actually, before the abolition of the Zamindari system, most of the land were concentrated into the few hands, that is by the landlords, and they obtained most of the production of the agriculture, and actual tenants of the that is the farmer or actual cultivators, they only obtained the subsistence income from the agriculture. Therefore, they are exploited by the landlords and they are not interested to produce more, and they are also not interested to increase the productivity. On the basis of this backdrop, Government of India introduces different measures of the land reforms, and these measures includes threefold ideas. One is the abolition of intermediaries, tenancy reforms, and reorganization of agriculture. Abolition of intermediaries means abolition of Rayatwari system, Zamindari system, and other land tenure system, as well as to overcome or eliminate different intermediaries in between farmer and the government. After the abolition of intermediaries, government made an attempt to establish the direct relationship between actual tenant of the land, that is cultivators, with the government. And next is the tenancy reforms. Tenancy reforms included the regulation of the rent of the land and the security of the tenant as well as the ownership right of the tenants. And in case of reorganization of agriculture, policy included the redistribution of the surplus land after acquiring from the landlords and consolidation of the land holdings as well as to promote the cooperative farming. Different legislative measures were undertaken by the government to abolish the landlords and to redistribute the surplus land among the landless households. But these legislative measures are not effective or are not robust. There were a number of lacunas in the legislative policies or loopholes. Therefore, land reform policies were not properly executed in our country. These inadequate and defective measures not able to redistribute surplus land among the landless household. Nowadays, nearly 4% of the agricultural land belongs to top 5% of the rural household. M.L. Dantewala argued that due to lack of implementation of the land reforms, the policies actually results are far from the reality. We are not able to get the equal distribution of land or equalitarian distribution of the land as a result of the loopholes of the land reform policy. Now we come to the another policy which is related with the control of the monopoly concentration power. Government passed an act which is named as Monopoly and Restrictive Trade Practices in the year 1969. Before that, there was no measures taken by the government to control the monopoly concentration in our country. It was only in the 1969 government introduced this particular act, MRTP Act, to control the monopoly concentration and trade practices. But this policy, MRTP Act, is important in our country, but there are also some inadequate and ineffective implementation of this policy. As a result, we are not observe the monopoly concentration of the in our country. That is, government not able to overcome the monopoly concentration in our country. During the LPG era, that is during the era of liberalization, globalization and privatization, the emerging trend is related with acquisition, merger and takeover of one industry by the others, and there was the evidence of increase of monopoly concentration day after day. That is, the MRTP Act was not able to solve the problem of monopoly concentration in our country. Fiscal policy by the government is also another important policy that may be able to control the poverty and inequality. Fiscal policy means the government expenditure and taxation. That is, government expenditure and taxation are the two important parts of the fiscal policy, and this fiscal policy indirectly and directly helps to reduce poverty and inequality. In fiscal policy, indirectly through the impact of growth and inflation, able to reduce the level of poverty. If the growth is more inclusive one, then this growth process able to overcome the problem of poverty in our country. Similarly, the fiscal policy directly affect on the poverty through the public provision of the goods and services and through the specific poverty alleviation or social protection program. This social protection and poverty alleviation program may directly address the problem of poverty and inequality in our country. An Indian tax structure is also treated as the progressive tax structure because as the income level increases, the tax rate as well as volume of the tax increases. Therefore, Indian tax structure is treated as the progressive tax structure. The motive of the progressive tax structure is to reduce the income inequality in our country. But after observing the trends of income and wealth inequality in our country, this tax policy in our country raised the question, and this tax policy not at all able to overcome the problem of inequality in our country. The problem of inequality of income and wealth day by day is gradually increasing in our country. Another policy adopted by the government, which is called the minimum wage policy. This minimum wage policy adopted by the government in the year 1948 that help us to secure minimum wage for the casual laborers. In Constitution, it is treated as the living wages that secured the basic standard of living in respect of basic needs for food, health, education, etc. But the statutory minimum wages, which is called the minimum wages that was introduced in our country, not effectively able to control the poverty or inequality in our country, because in our country, most of the workers are engaged in the unorganized sectors. Nearly 91% of the total workforce are engaged in the unorganized sector, where there was no job contract, no statutory provision of the minimum wage rate, no labor laws. Therefore, the application of the minimum wage is not possible in our country, at least in the 91% section of our country, for the 91% workers in our country. Therefore, we are not able to observe its effectiveness in case of reduction of the poverty and inequality. Now the different types of programs. First of the employment generating program. The primary objective of employment generating program is to reduce unemployment and underemployment. That is true, but these types of program also help to overcome the poverty and different form of deprivation. Therefore, government introduced different types of social protection program, specifically the employment generating program. The employment generating program was first started in the fourth 5-year plan. Before that, there was no attempt has been taken by the Planning Commission to control or to generate the employment by some employment generating program. We observed its first evidence of employment generating program in our country during the fourth 5-year plan, and the fourth 5-year plan executed different types of employment generating program such as drought prone area program, DPAP, food for work program, FWP, along with some other important programs. But these employment generating program are short-lived and they are introduced on ad hoc basis. Therefore, we are not able to witness their effectiveness to control the poverty and inequality. In the year 1978 and 79, Government of India introduced a massive program which is called IRDP, Integrated Rural Development Program. The nature of the program is self-employment generating program, and this program helps the farmer by supplying the means of entrepreneurship as they are able to develop their entrepreneurial skill or they are able to develop their self-employment. Along with this IRDP, National Rural Employment Program, NREP, and Rural Landless Employment Guarantee Program, RLEGP, were also introduced to promote employment as well as to overcome the poverty and inequality in our country. In 1989, two employment generating program, one is NREP and RLEGP, merged into a single program which is called the Jawahar Rozgar Yojana. And the basic purpose of the Jawahar Rozgar Yojana is to emphasize on the generation of the employment for the casual workers. And no doubt these attempts were in the right direction, but the experience at the implementation level was very disappointing. The basic problem was there was no coordination among different types of program, as well as the ineffective implementation of the program, or due to ineffective implementation of the program, we are not able to observe their effectiveness in respect of poverty and inequality. Therefore, the IRDP and its sister programs like training of rural youth for self-employment, tourism, and development of women and children in rural areas, DOCRA, has been restructured into a single self-employment generating program called the Swarno Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana from the April 1999. The basic purpose of Swarno Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana is that to coordinate different types of program with a single program. After that, the UPA government in the center introduced the National Rural Employment Guarantee Program in 2006. After 2 or 3 years, the program renamed as Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Programs. And the planners or the policy makers was emphasized that this program is the very innovative types of program where there was the provision of 100 days guaranteed employment to the worker, and this program is also legally enforced by the government. Therefore, many policymakers as well as economists, they are ambitious about the scheme, and they are expecting that this program is able to overcome the poverty, specifically the rural poverty in our country. Now, the minimum needs program. It is a special type of program that able to facilitate some minimum facilities to the households. And planners, along with a section of the development economics, have realized that benefits of growth do not automatically percolate downwards, and the less developed countries have no choice other than to pay direct attention to the basic needs of the people at the lowest strata of the society. Therefore, during the 5th five-year plan, Government of India introduced the minimum needs program. The basic objectives of the minimum needs program is to facilitate some basic services by the means of education, health, sanitation, drinking water, housing, etc., to overcome the different types of deprivation that experienced by the households. And this minimum needs program not only able to overcome the poverty but also effective in case of the growth of the economy, because this program because the basic objectives of this program is to develop some infrastructural facilities, and these infrastructural facilities in one hand able to overcome different sorts of deprivation of the household, on the other hand able to promote the growth of the economy. But the effectiveness of this program is also lagging behind because of the shortage of the fund. Now the social protection program. Policymaker emphasized on the comprehensive social protection programs that able to overcome the poverty, inequality and different forms of deprivations. Social protection program means the government programs, and the basic purpose of this program is to overcome the poverty and other forms of deprivation. And the aim of this program is preventing, reducing and eliminating economic and social vulnerabilities to poverty and deprivation. Social protection program is also related with the program that introduced by the government, that is by the central and state government to overcome different types of problems. And the ambit of this scheme in our country is quite large, and the program extended from education to health, from housing to sanitation, etc., etc. The social protection programs that introduced in our country can be classified into two groups. One is the basic income securities, and another is the universal access to essential affordable social services. The basic income securities related program able to generate income to the household or the member of the household. The basic income security related program is related with the income support benefits and employment guarantees to the household, and these programs are related with the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, Swarno Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana, and NTFP, that is procurement of non-timber forest product. These three programs, MGNREGA, SGSY and NTFP, are directly and indirectly able to generate income as well as employment to the households. Along with this program, there were some pension scheme that also facilitate the income to the specific group of people. And these pension schemes are National Old Age Pension Scheme, National Family Benefit Scheme, National Widow Pension Scheme, and National Disabilities Pension Scheme. All these programs, that is the income generating program as well as pension scheme, are helpful for the household to generate additional income. The second types of program are called universal access to essential affordable services. And these types of program are consist with 5 groups, or we can categorize the program under this head into the 5 groups. And these are related with the food security, health security, housing, education, as well as water and sanitation. The program that we are observing in our country in respect of food security is the targeted public distribution system, by which the people are getting subsidized food grains from the government. The health related program are primary health care, Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana and Janani Suraksha Yojana. There is also the evidence of the program related with water and sanitation, like National Rural Drinking Water Program and Total Sanitation Campaign, which is renamed as Swachh Bharat Mission. The program related with education are Integrated Child Development Scheme, Mid-Day Meal Scheme, Shishu Shiksha Karmasuchi and Madhyamik Shiksha Karmasuchi. There is also the evidence of the housing scheme like Indira Awas Yojana or its new version, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. These programs are also effective to explore different types of problem or to overcome different types of problem faced by the household. Along with these central government programs, there are also the evidence of the state government program, and that program also varies from one state to another state. In the particular work, Das in 2020, in his monograph, the social protection program in India, its impacts on rural poverty and deprivation, has brought out the well researched and comprehensive study where he made an attempt to explore the impact of social protection programs on the poverty and inequality. That is, at what extent social protection program able to reduce the poverty and inequality. The study pointed out that the social protection program able to reduce poverty at a certain extent, as well as able to reduce different form of deprivation related with housing, drinking water, education, electricity, food security and nutrition. But the impact of social protection program is limited and they are not able to overcome the problem of poverty and inequality in our country. The basic problem of this social protection program is that there was the mismatching between demand and supply of the social protection program. That is, the supply of the social protection programs are not matched with the demand of the social protection program. Social protection programs are lagging behind in respect of the demand from the household. Side by side, the leakage and inefficient delivery mechanisms are also the important causes for the insignificant effect of social protection programs. Now we come to the conclusion. The various measures undertaken by the government to control the inequality as well as to overcome the problem of poverty and other form of deprivations. But the impact of these programs or policies are experienced in our country but this program not able to overcome the problem of poverty and inequality. In certain extent, the employment generating program or other social protection program able to overcome the poverty and deprivation, but there was no evidence to reduce income inequality in our country, or the government policies and program not able to overcome the problem of income inequality in our country. Now we come to the conclusion. The various measures sponsored by the government have made little impact on poverty, and thus income inequalities perpetuate in their ugliest form. In this country, although rich and poor, literate and illiterate, men and women are participate in electing the government, yet the power always remains in the hands of the capitalist, landlords and the rich farmer. The capacity of the national government to effectively tackle the problem of income inequality has considerably reduced in the recent times. That was observed by different commissions. Under these circumstances, one should not expect any positive approach from the government for the elimination of the economic disparities. However, the employment generating program and different types of social protection program able to reduce poverty and different form of deprivation at a certain extent, but they are not able to overcome the problem of inequality. To reduce the problem of inequality, the strong and effective redistribution mechanism will be needed. Otherwise, government not able to control the income inequalities in our country. Side by side, it is also true that the excessive dependence on the social protection program to overcome the poverty and deprivation of the household also raised the issue of sustainability of the livelihoods. That is, their excessive dependence on the social protection program not able to develop the self-employment generating program, or they are not able to develop their own entitlement. Therefore, the study strongly recommend to enhance the own entitlement of the household. By the development of the own entitlement of the household, the problem of poverty and inequality will be solved in the near future. Otherwise, the excessive dependence on the social protection programs may be created the dependency syndrome, or may be raised the issues of sustainable livelihood in the near future.